I have my grandma's copy of this cookbook. And this cookbook is no ordinary cookbook.
No.
Because remember, people were very independent in those days. You couldn't just go to a grocery store. You couldn't just go to the clothes store because you had to go all the way from here to San Francisco. You had to take a boat or a horse. So this cookbook tells you how to cook such things as raccoons, possums, squirrels, turtles, plus everything else you might need to know. It tells you how to make ladies' makeup, cream for your skin.
Off the table, or else let's go.
It tells you how to make medicine. Because remember, doctors were 100 miles away, so you had to know how to make things for your family to keep them well. So that's an amazing cookbook. Now, over here, does anybody have a guess what this might be?
It's a blender. That's a blender?
Very close to a blender, yes.
It's a blender. It's just like
Okay,
a
I'm
mixer.
going to tell you what this was used for. This was the girl's job. This was for making butter. So in the old days, and they would milk the cow, and you would put it in a can like this, and you would wait for the cream to rise to the top. Then you would skim off the cream and put it in here, because butter is made from cream. And the girls would sit and they would turn. And they would turn. And they would turn. And turn. And turn. And turn. They would turn for 45 minutes. And then the butter would start to come together. And when it came together, they would take the butter paddle. Now this butter paddle had two uses. If children did not behave, can you think what it was used for?
I don't think they know.
Butter, for butter.
We can demonstrate.
It was used for paddling bottoms for naughty children. But it was used to put butter into butter molds. And here is a butter mold. And they would scoop the butter out and they would put it in here, pat it down, and it would make it nice and square. And then see, they would just push it on. And they would have a square. Now, in those days, if ladies wanted a little extra money, and they had extra butter or extra eggs, they would take it to a market. And so, Mrs. Patterson, her fancy butter, would go in here. Now you see there's a little design on here.
Ooh, pretty.
It's kind of like what we might call a logo. So everybody knew that when the butter came in, that this design was Mrs. Patterson's. Okay? And they would know, because if they liked Mrs. Patterson's butter, then they would buy the kind with the flour on the top. And if they didn't like Mrs. Patterson's butter, they would know better than to buy the one with the flour on the top. Okay? So, this, after electricity came into being, was a toaster. This was a modern toaster. This over here was one of the very first toasters. See, it was kind of, you had to set it on the stove and it got hot and all kinds of problems. Now this was a modern toaster. You would open it, you would put the toast right in the side here, toast the one side. When that was done, see, you could just turn it around.
Oh, wow.
And toast the other side. Wasn't that a great invention?
Yeah.
Does anybody know what this is?
A toaster.
This right here.
It's a mixer.
A mixer, and what do you think this makes?
A mixer bowl.
Something delicious.
Something wonderful.
Ice cream.
Something cold.
Cold, very cold.
Two words,
Ice
made out of two
cream.
words.
This was an old-fashioned ice cream maker. And you would put in here with ice and cream and sugar, And maybe you like strawberry ice cream.
I like
You like strawberry ice cream?
Yes.
You put
I
strawberries
like chocolate ice cream.
Then you put
I
some
like chocolate.
chocolate powder in here.
I read vanilla. Then we have to add strawberry powder.
Didn't you have to what?
Add strawberry.
Add strawberry. You'd add fresh strawberries. You would just pick them right out here and chop them up and throw them in here.
Is it
So,
delicious?
Thank you.
totally delicious, totally. But now here's my next question for you. Remember there were no refrigerators or freezers in those days. Where do you think the ice came from? You're not going to believe this.
What?
In those days when San Francisco was young, and there was no ice, they sent ships up to Alaska. And the workers would get out and they would go to the rivers and they would cut big ice blocks out of the rivers. They would bring them back to the ship. They would pack them in sawdust and they would fill the ship full of sawdust.
Excuse me, we're supposed to get on the train in about 5 minutes.
Oh,